Wild, weird, amazing, and caught on video. This week on Wild and Weird Amazing Videos, check it out. We got motorcycle madmen with a death wish to spare. A dog that thinks he's a member of the Hells Angels. Another Fido who will mesmerize you. Soccer violence, sock it to me. The Yamazi. These guys are jumping. If we told you any more, you couldn't take the excitement. Please. Try this at home. We dare you. Just kidding. Now we have something interesting here. We call them motorcycle madmen. Grown men who don't want to live. The zest is gone. They just want to crash now. Fun. These competitors practice long and hard, usually after drinking lots of coffee. And the most amazing thing is, no one has ever been hurt doing this sport. This is the kind of contest that separates the men from the boys, and sometimes the boys from their motorcycles. And the Energizer Bunny is carried off on a gurney. I wouldn't wish this sport on a dog. For most dog lovers who work, the morning walk is the most time they can expect to spend with their pet during the week. However, animal lover and bike fanatic Josh Offturn was determined not to leave his pooch Max behind, even if it meant traveling in a rather unusual tandem. Unfortunately, the local police have decided that this particular form of transport was against the law, and even if the dog is enjoying it, John has been banned from taking Max onto public roads.
The dog's been on the bike since he was 8 weeks old. He hasn't shown any signs of not wanting to go on the bike. As soon as I start my bike up now, he actually jumps on the tank. He doesn't move about the tank, he just sits on the tank. And so that's it really.
Because of John's 8-month ban, he and Max currently have to restrict their motoring to private roads. When Max was younger, he used to travel in the pocket of a specially made jacket. Now he prefers to sit on the gas tank where he can get a better view of what's going on. Neither passenger or driver are keen to give up traveling together. Introducing Oscar, one of the world's most potent hypnotists working today. He's been performing since he was a puppy, sending countless people into deep trances. His owner, Hugh Lennon, has trained Oscar to stare deep into the eyes of people who then fall like flies. No one has yet failed to fall under Oscar's spell. Some people manage to avoid his influence, but not for long. And so, remember how you used to play in the schoolyard when you were 6? Well, these lads, they haven't forgotten those glory days. Hey, at least it ain't hockey. This is possibly the only sport in existence in which ambulance drivers and paramedics are issued actual team uniforms and are considered part of the starting lineup. The rules are these. A group of young men, usually with a mild to moderate criminal background, spend about 3 hours warming up in a local tavern. Then it's time to play. The purpose of the game is simple. Simple though it is, we still don't know what it is. The players are simple, and that helps. The last man standing is usually pretty bruised, but glad to leave the field alive. And they do it all over again next Saturday. Kinda tiring just watching this insanity, ain't it? Well, now you can really overdo it in your armchair watching these jumping beans. Jumping more than 10 meters up into the air, leaping over obstacles. The Yamazi are afraid of nothing. Yamazi means strong spirit in Zairian. It's also the name of a group formed by 4 young Parisians, Malik, Jan, Gislan, and William, who have been reunited by their love of sport and surpassing of oneself. The Yamazi have been together for 3 years, but in fact we've been training together for 10 years. We've nearly all done martial arts, combat sports, athletics, and gym, a bit of everything. Sport brought us together and made us realize that we all had the same values in life. The Yamazi have invented a new discipline based on jumps. They call it the art of movement. Each jump is different. We practice in such a way that the dangers are reduced to a minimum, but there is always a risk. We have to be mentally 100% on top for each jump, otherwise we're taking unnecessary risks. It's ridiculous to try a jump when we're not ready. We can avoid problems, so we avoid them. We take our time, and we evolve slowly to get where we want to be. I think that we did the first jump before we even realized what we were doing, because even before doing that, we had jumps in our mind. Training is the very basis of the work of the Yamazi. They tirelessly repeat the same gestures every day to form their bodies and spirits. The town is Yamazi Playground. The pavements, the stairs, the footbridges, the bridges, the balconies, nothing can stop these tarmac acrobats who perform breathtaking jumps several meters from the ground. Their goal is to prove that nothing can stop them, and that you have to be strong to live in an urban jungle. Spider-Man is a superhero. We don't stick to walls. We're like everybody else, except that we've developed our physical capacities much more. We don't want to be associated with heroes. Otherwise, children will think that we are heroes, and that would be dangerous. If you want to be credible, you have to give people the real thing. The Yamazi would like to leave the domain of purely sporting performance to get closer to the artistic world. This is why they're working on the choreographic aspect of their movements with a rap group from the neighborhood. As a result of these steps, they were the heroes of a short film which they hope will enable them to become known to the public. The Yamazi dream of performing shows, but while they wait for success, they remain philosophical. In Lapland, the reindeer is a sacred animal. It was central to life for the nomadic Lapps. Today, reindeer are the heart of the region's sporting life. So let's meet a racing reindeer breeder. Sapporo, a small village in Lapland, 1,200 kilometers north of Stockholm. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and Tord Laba, one of the region's reindeer rearers, is leaving for work. It's going to be a great day. The temperature is -20 today. Ideal weather for taking the children for a walk with his favorite reindeer, Hypnotist. Hypnotist is a 6-year-old male and is Tord's little favorite. The man and the animal have been training along this path twice a day for 3 years. I found him one day as I was taking my reindeer into the forest. He was so thin. He was about 3 years old. I was really struck by how thin he was. He started walking along behind me, and I noticed that his legs came up level with my hands. So, as he had long legs and he wasn't afraid of me, I decided that I could train him.
Då tänkte jag, den här måste jag ta och börja träna den.
Tord Labba owns a dozen reindeer which he trains every day. These are racing reindeer, champions that take part in competitions that the little people of Lapland love. Reindeer racing is horse racing, Swedish style. Just one minor detail. A reindeer is not a horse. It's a wild animal that is particularly fearful and that you can't train. At best you can tame a reindeer, but it doesn't always turn when you want it to. Therefore, Tord has to mark out his tracks so that his pilot can go round it. And we're off! I squat down to take the bend. You have to make yourself small so that you're more aerodynamic. And after the last bend, you charge along. It's Eidme's turn to take the stage. Eidme is a star. Together with his pilot, he won the Swedish championships. In the final, faced with 3 other competitors, he went around the 1-kilometer track in just 1 minute, 21 seconds. Eidme is power at its purest, but he's also stubborn as a mule. The star is temperamental and clearly doesn't want to train today. Tord Labba regularly organizes races in the region's towns and villages, like here in Kiruna. These events, which are very popular in Lapland, are raced 2 by 2 around a block of houses. The brave competitors lie on sleds because it's easier than on skis. The rules are simple. You have to hold on tight, close your eyes, and be lucky at the finishing line. A reindeer doesn't always stop when you want it to. It was really incredible. I couldn't hear anything at all. I could only feel the cold, but I loved it. Eidme still has a few good racing years ahead of him, but Tord is already thinking of the future. Together with his son, also a future champion, he carefully approaches a promising future recruit. Yeah, very touching with the kid. Let's see someone fall off a mountain already. We don't know if you can tell, but this isn't actually the way it's supposed to be done. That could be why these athletes are falling. Maybe they don't know they're supposed to stay upright. Perhaps if they're Austrian, they consider it bad manners to stay on their feet. Every country has its own customs. The Swiss are neutral. They don't care if you fall or not. Skiing and snowboarding were actually invented in the late 1980s. Prior to that date, people skied and snowboarded, but there was no name for what they did. They'd just go careening down the mountainside, and people would go, "Oh, look at Hans! Have a nice day, Hans!" They actually didn't know it was a sport. They didn't know what it was. Ski resorts were unheard of. Then, one fine day, somebody broke his leg and the sport of skiing was born. You break 2 legs, you get a cast put on 1 leg free. Great deals in the Alps on this. Bring your medical record number and your coupon book. All right, class, get out your elephant guns. This is Marine World Africa in California, with a number of animals, including some Asian elephants. Judy, the 31-year-old female, has recently taken up a new hobby to help her pass the time and keep her mind off the tide. Judy is the first known elephant artist and is already making a bit of a splash with her work.
They are very, very intelligent animals. We want to keep their mind busy, keep their mind occupied. So anytime we can give them something different to do, something new and exciting, they like that. Judy likes attention. She gets attention for doing this, so it makes her happy.
Judy only uses the finest material in her work, badger hair brushes and fine acrylic paint. Once a masterpiece is finished, Judy leaves it in the sun to dry while she concentrates on her next work. Her trainer thinks she's working up to a big exhibition.
It's art, and it's really visually very pleasing. It's not offensive, and it doesn't have a social comment, and really quite promising.
Dive, Granddad, dive! Porto Venere in Italy is a magnet for cliff divers. In the 50s, a young man wowed the crowds with sensational dives. Now, 72, Alberto has decided to take one last leap. Porto Venere in northern Italy is a tiny Mediterranean village whose beauty and history have earned it UNESCO World Heritage status. Here, every year, hundreds of spectators scale the cliffs of the Gulf of Poets to watch a spectacular sea diving competition. The world's best divers meet at the top of the famous Byron's Cave for the Italian stage of the Cliff Diving World Tour. Over a dozen divers will be testing their nerves by jumping into the sea from a height of 30 meters. A few quick figures, then the hit, hard, violent, and especially decisive for the final victory. This extreme sport is reserved for a small elite. Free-falling 30 meters, the diver's body hits the water at a speed of almost 100 kilometers an hour. The body has to enter the water perfectly to avoid an accident. In this game, every mistake is a costly one. Porto Venere is therefore hosting a quite exceptional diving competition, and yet there was one competitor missing, local celebrity Alberto Vitti. Now aged 72 and still nicknamed the Fish, Alberto was the best diver in Porto Venere, a fact that no one here has forgotten. How are you, on form? Of course you are, always are. Alberto loves showing people where he achieved his exploits and stresses the fact that he is the granddaddy of all these daring divers. For the World Championship, they installed a platform up there in the greenery, but I invented this dive. I was the first ever to dive from up there. That's how they knew this was a good place for diving, and came here for their competitions. But for the Fish, memories are not enough, so he suddenly decides to do something a little more demonstrative. Yes, we're going to do something today. Let's see, from up there, and I'll dive there. The Fish has made up his mind. At 72, he will dive again. But he wants all his old pals there to see him do it. Vittorio, the old lifeguard, and Giuliano, the local historian, keeping memories alive.
Alberto Vitti, detto Nasello, che è rimasto
Alberto Vitti, the Fish as we call him, has always been at one with the water. He's grown up in it, lived, worked, and fought underwater.
Ha lavorato, ha pensato sempre sotto
the sea is his dimension, and if you want to understand a man, you really need to know his world.
Per comprendere un uomo, bisogna conoscere I suoi luoghi.
And the Fish's world is one of impressive beauty and danger. Today he's forgotten his age. Today, with his friends around him, he's decided to relive one more time the thrills of diving at Porto Venere. A first dive of about 8 meters under the slightly worried gaze of his friends, then a second dive of 13 meters, very dangerous as the rocks are only a meter under the surface. The fish is happy and plays to the audience. He's rather proud of his performance, but there's something not quite right. The young professionals jumped from much higher up. So he makes a decision. At enormous risk, he will dive from at least 20 meters up. From that height, he knows that his weight will be more than doubled and that the impact speed will exceed 100 kilometers an hour. One false move, the slightest trajectory error, and his encounter with the water could prove fatal. At 72, a man's body no longer has the elasticity and strength to withstand such a collision. But nothing will stop him. He doesn't know the meaning of fear. He's done it! His friend Vittorio joins him in the water to make sure he's okay and to congratulate him. The fish has won again, adding another chapter to the legend of Porto Venere. Come back next time, watch as we peel the guy off the ocean floor. Not really.